Hey everyone, Sue's making a face. I hope you all get a chance to watch the videos. Welcome in. This is Midlife Humor Gurus. I am Jen, and this is Sue. And we are here today to talk about the new year and some of the blocks that might get in your way, which sounds not fun, but hopefully will infuse some joy and some humor into this whole endeavor. But we really felt like it was important to start the new year by kind of identifying some of the potholes that we hear people speak to that end up preventing kind of that fresh start we're all looking for. And so we'll probably kind of toss in blocks and then some of the ideas that you might utilize to help kind of navigate through that would be my hope, my fingers crossed. Sue, have you experienced blocks during kind of recreating for the new year? So those of you that are listening know I do not like the word resolution. It insinuates something's broken. You're not broken. So I like the idea of a reset or reconfiguration, whatever word you like. Reconfiguration, is that a word? Anyway, my brain
it's a word.
My brain just went anyway. You get what I'm saying. So I like other language for this time of year, but have you bumped into blocks in your journey? And if so, are there any that you'd be willing to like identify and share with us and talk through kind of the spots where you feel like maybe you've hit some snags?
Are you talking about blocks for the year or in general in life?
Oh, like I want to lean into doing something different in the next year. What have maybe been moments where you've noticed as you look back that it seemed like it maybe like you got kind of stuck?
My block has always been me. I'm the blockhead.
Okay.
I am always the one getting in my own way. And I actually just wrote this down. I wrote down because we're talking about blocks. And then I parenthetical put it down in my little notebook here versus excuses. And the reason I said that is this is specific to me, just me.
Yeah.
I have always been, it's, I guess you could say it's like an imposter syndrome. Okay. Am I saying that right? Imposture?
Imposter.
No, imposter syndrome. I'm so glad I talk for a living.
Our words, I'm like blah, 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 blah. Anyway, yes, imposters. Okay, so you've experienced imposter syndrome.
And English lit major over here. I'm good with the words. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because in looking back, I would say probably using this year as an example, because we were talking and we've talked before about how this year has brought on like a lot of changes. And it wasn't until I got kind of through all of the changes and looked back that I realized, wow, I really had been holding on to a lot. We talked before about release and clutching and just gripping and holding on too tightly. And I think a lot of that for me is because I kind of put myself in the way to set myself up to maybe not succeed. And I don't want to use the word failure, even though I just did. Because honestly, for the most part, that has always been easier for me. Oh, well, it didn't work. I guess I'm a failure. C'est la vie, on to the next thing. So a lot of the blocks have really been kind of coming up with plans and goals and changes and reconfigurations, like you said.
Sure.
That I want to make, but then always supplementing it with an excuse of why it is that it might not work, or a reason of why it is that it might not work, which reasons sometimes are just excuses disguised as reasons, really.
Sure. Well, and when you say that and I hear, and again, always feel free to be like, no, that doesn't fit. What I think I'm hearing you speak to maybe is a little self-sabotage.
Oh, 100%.
It's like I create a method, I create an idea, I have this vision, and then I give myself permission for the reasons that it won't work. And everybody's done this. This is, so if you're listening, you'd have to be dead or some guru on the planet to not have experience. I think we've all done this. And so I think there is a piece that's really natural for many of us to lean into self-sabotage behaviors, which I think we're going to talk about some of them today. And let's see if any of them fit. And then some of the suggestions, if any of those may have been things that would have helped us. I think for me, my thing is consistently leaning in to utilizing the tools that I have. I think sometimes I get lazy. So I think I know the solutions for doing the things. I think sometimes I'm not always doing them consistently. So I think
Okay.
that is my thing would probably be consistency. So I know for me, that's kind of a snag that is not necessarily my strong suit. So let's talk through some of these things and what that might look like, right? So some blocks that I had listed, and I love self-sabotage is just one. I think self-sabotage might fall underneath this next one I'm going to say that I think is first is your mindset. So your mindset is really freaking important. And I know it gets so much chatter. We all hear like you can't probably reach in any direction 3 feet and not find a podcast, a book, a something that's going to speak to mindset. I really do think that is crucial. And one of the things that I think is crucial is the language that you use. So we're going to talk about that. So we talked about last time, if you listened to us talk about our year in review, then you heard some of the words like picking a word for the year. Do you have to do that? No. You might pick a mantra. You might pick something else. You might have a different method. We'll throw some of those out with time. But I do think language is really important. So your mindset is like kind of an ass kicker. If it is not in alignment for you, then it is a space where I see a lot of my clients that I've worked with end up taking a exit stage left on accident they didn't mean to take. So your mindset is about, I think, creating a connection with either a word or words that you want to have, having a vision board, having a vision, whatever that looks like. And really the mindset, which is using language that connects you deeply to the experience that you want to have. So if I say, I'd really like to blank, blank, blank. There's lots of loose language we can use that's kind of ambiguous. And I think ambiguous equals ambiguous. So I will say one of the firm beliefs I have that as I've watched people have this experience, if we're ambiguous, the solution is ambiguous. So one of your best solutions from a mindset perspective is being freaking clear. So that's number one. I would say be clear. And then I would say, watch the language that you're using, not just from being clear, and that's important, that kind of black and white notion. But I think what's important is using positive language. So it's all comes down to almost changing a word out of sometimes the way we're seeing something to have a completely different experience of it. So, for example, when I did a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy in my office, this was a practice we would go through, which was helping people understand the difference in the way that we see things. So Sue, I'm going to call you out, not call you out in a mean way. I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise for me. What is a phrase that you might use for
I'm on vacation?
What'd you say? What'd you say?
I'm on vacation.
I'm on. I know I'm asking you to work when you're on vacation. So what is a phrase that you think might get you in trouble around the new year? Can you give me a phrase? And it can be made up. You don't have to give me one you've had. If you have one, that's great. But is there something that you feel? Yeah, lay it on me. Good. Give it to me.
Are you talking about one that I use or one that I've heard that drives me crazy?
It doesn't matter. Give me whatever. It doesn't matter.
I am so over this year. I can't wait for it to be done. That is what drives me crazy.
Why does that make you crazy?
What makes me crazy is the shit that happened to you this year is not because of the year. Years are defined by January through December, yes.
Right.
But it's just a space of time. It's a block that we have created in our own brains as human beings, that we can collectively actually visually see time.
Agree. Right.
So when I hear people say at the new year, and don't get me wrong, 2014 was my shit year, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But I didn't get to the end of the year and say, I am so over this year, because the difference between December 30, or the difference between 2023 and 2024, for example, is the difference between December 31st and January 1st. Right? It's a day. It's everything is comprised of a day. It's a day, an hour, a minute, a second, a nanosecond, right? So when you get to the end of a year that's been shit, which we've all had them, and I take none of that away from anybody. Now you're going into the new year with a shitty attitude.
Yeah.
You're carrying all of the crap,
the energy
that accumulated over the course of the year. You're focusing only on it.
Yeah.
And then you're taking it into the next year. Well, it's rolling over.
Yeah.
So you were talking about, you have ambiguous thoughts, you have ambiguous results. You have negative thoughts, you have negative results.
Right.
It's like you're stumbling forward all the time, trying to catch yourself, trying to get your balance year after year after year.
Mm-hmm.
And so that negativity to me is what drives me crazy, because, and a lot of this is derived. I've heard people say it in person, but a lot of it is derived from seeing it in comments on social media.
Sure.
Oh, so and so, this person died and this person died, and I'm so over this year. Well, people are going to die next year too.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm not saying that you've lost a family member this year and now you have to get over it on January 1st. By no means is that what I'm saying.
Right.
It's not just death. It's crap. And that's why I love the thin veil between a year is a single day.
Yeah.
Because you can take it one chunk at a time.
Right. Right. And I think when I hear you say that, what I also think about is that's mindset. And the mindset is, you get to start over whenever you want.
Yes.
So I think that, right, we have a fallacy that it has to look like a new year. I actually my birthday tends to be actually more of a year change for me than the new year.
Interesting.
I have a good energy in January. I'm ready to move from one thing to the next. So I do observe kind of recreating and resetting myself. But I'm going to say my birthday is almost more potent to me as a year changeover, as a chapter, than even because I'm turning another year.
Because that's your year. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where you put it. But what I would say is it matters more that you understand that you get to begin again every single day.
Right.
That it's not required that a January 1 shows up so that you can reinvent yourself or reinvent a part of yourself or reinvent something that would be really important to you. It's not required. It's just a day. I do think what you're saying, and actually in a healthy way, it's just a day, friends. Right. We don't want to take the residual energy from one place and do another. So what I will say, and hear me loud and clear, I'm going to lean into the energy and the woo for a minute, which I hate that phrase. You'll probably not hear me use it twice, but we're going to lean into that energy field, which is we don't want to hang on to this energy, which is, I think, what Sue's actually getting at. I don't want to bring this energy of, phew, that was shit into the next year. That's not the vibe. So what I would promote to you, a block that you could be experiencing in your life, is not clearing your energy. And so to me, if you're in that space where you're like, hot damn, it's been a rough year, or hot damn, it's been a rough week, clear your energy. Mm-hmm. So give yourself permission, give yourself an extra boost to actually clear your own energy and your own kind of vibe, if you will. You get to do that whenever you want. And I recommend doing it on a daily basis. So nonetheless, if you're showing up and 1 year was really rough, you might need to do a really nice energetic clearing. What does that mean? We'll talk a little bit more about that, but I love where you're going with that. I do think that we don't want to bring this vibe into this new vibe we're trying to create. I think it's very important to kind of create a line in the sand, clear out what was to move into what is and what you're creating, if that makes sense. I think showing up with a clear space, mindset, all that, very, very important. If that makes sense. Yes.
It does make sense. And I think along with that, one of the things too, like on a day-to-day basis, because I think a lot of times they go hand in hand on a day-to-day, not just the year too, is when people, it always hurts my soul a little bit. And I'm not calling people up because I've said all these things too. It's not that. It's just that since we're talking about this.
Right.
And if you want things to be different, you kind of have to have a different mindset, right?
Right.
So the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I think we get thought process that we don't realize that what we're saying is being heard in the universe. Right.
That the universe has got big ears. I mean, imagine, right? It's like you said, it's going to capture all of your thoughts.
Right. I mean, seriously, you guys, if you think that digital marketing is invasive, like that's man-made. The universe has its own agenda going on, and it's picking up your thoughts way more than
absolutely. It absolutely is. Yeah. Well said. I think and
I truly mean that. So when I see people say, fuck my life, it hurts me a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
What you're saying when you say stuff like that is that you don't appreciate what you do have.
Yep.
You're not showing gratitude when you use
Yeah.
words are really important.
Oh, they are. You guys are all going to hear me preach about this, and so I love that you're like laying the groundwork for me in the most beautiful way, unplanned. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. No, they're physical. They really are. They're a physical manifestation of your thoughts, and your thoughts are plugged in to a bigger whatever it is that you want to see it as.
Exactly. I
And
think
that's listening.
yeah, it is. And there's a really cool experiment, and I'm gonna brain fart, and we probably don't have time to look it up and have it all be collective when I say this here. There's a really cool scientific experiment that was created by a gentleman who took jars of water and froze them. And what he did was on each jar, there was a word that he taped onto it. So war, hate, love, kindness, joy. When those were frozen, the only difference, same jar, same water, the only difference that was created in any way, shape, or form across this scientific, whatever this was the word. What was fascinating was when they took them out, the crystals that were formed in things that were positive were stunning pieces of artwork. The ones that had negativity attached to them were ugly, disjointed, and not beautiful at all. And so I think it is a really powerful tool to go in and see that you actually have this experience where you can notice with your eyes what is actually happening when you're using language. So again, this is that pivotal thing, right? It sounds so flip to us, like, oh, nah, your words don't matter. Even in that experience, in that experiment, we're showing how important language is, because it literally is creating a visual way to see what happens when we use positive versus negative language. So let me give an example of it. So we talked energy, and I love it because Sue brought us to energy, which I would have gotten to eventually by our conversation, but I'm going to back up just a little bit. So I was kind of talking about what's a phrase that we commonly probably have used or hear someone say, I can't do that. It won't work. That's too hard. These are the kinds of things that I hear people think about or even speak to, like much like fuck my life, which Sue's totally right about that vibe. We don't want to be using that language at all. But I want you to think about when I say things like, that's too hard. I couldn't do that. That's too hard. You're already telling the universe that it's not a possibility for yourself. Mm-hmm. You don't understand that the universe hears you very literally. So it goes, oh, okay, check. And it's what's interesting is then people sometimes then will kind of like say that, oh, the universe is out to get us then, or it's God, or it's source, or it's something's out. No, nothing's out to get you, right? That's not how that works. It's just listening. It's just responding to what you are bringing in, what energy you use, and how you show up. Okay. So we want to think about it that way. And so what I think you're really wanting to recognize and honor is that your language is very, very powerful. So one of the changes that we're going to talk about with mindset and the way that we see things is, for example, instead of saying just, it won't work. Okay, so we're going to use that just as an example. And what we want to think about is what kind of small little change could I make in that phrase? One, you want to challenge yourself. Is it really too hard? Is it really impossible? My guess is it's not, right? But we talk ourselves into that's our anxiety talking, right? But what we can do is make some really small changes, and it makes a really big difference in how we feel about it. So I want you to just notice really quickly, we're going to do a little energetic tool here and a little mindset experience just right here real quick. If I tell you to just notice what it feels like in your body when you say, it won't work. I want you to just take a moment. I want you to honor where you might notice that in your body. And I want you to notice, did you kind of go, did your inside somewhere have a little bit of a constriction? Did you notice a little bit of a hitch in your breath? Did you notice a little bit of tightness in your belly? We will commonly very in very intricate ways that we don't often pay attention to have a visceral reaction to our words. So how yucky does that feel? Scale of 0 to 10. 10 is the worst ever. 0 is it doesn't bug me at all. When you think of that phrase, it won't work. I want you to just give yourself that momentary assessment. Ooh, how does that feel? Scale of 0 to 10. Okay. Now we're going to change a couple of words, and I want you to notice the difference. Now, is this the end goal of where I'd want you to land? No. But is this a middle road? Yes. This is cognitive behavioral in a nutshell, which I love. Okay. If we just change the phrase from "it won't work" to "I feel like it won't work," I want you to notice the difference in your body. I feel like it won't work versus "it won't work." So we start with this very black and white phrase that's very finite, and it's pretty negative, and we want to notice what happens. And then if I add just a couple of words, I feel like it won't work. Very commonly in my office, and this is always a really fun exercise to go through with people, I go, how does that feel? They go, better. By how many points? At least a couple. Now, was that you going from "it won't work" to "I'm a fucking rock star"? No, we did not make that gigantic leap. Okay. And I want to, because I want to be real about that. Thoughts are fucking potent, and they're really hard to change. They're habits. So I want to give everybody a little bit of a breather, a break, an understanding of how thoughts break down, because I think people also hit an ear and go, I'm just going to slam this shit out and I've got all the right thoughts. And if it doesn't feel real to you also, you might have a block, because there might be something that's really energetically stuck for you, an emotion, a story, an experience you've had that really confirms for you this idea that won't work. And until you can unravel that, you might stumble to get this to really click. But what is true for all of us, what's a fact, is I feel like it won't work. That's a very different thing. And even adding in language that actually feels really factual to us somehow creates a little bit of distance from it. It doesn't feel as punchy if we add in that awareness that, oh, that's a feeling I have. That's just a feeling I have. You could even say, I sometimes think it won't work out. Even that, you're creating just a little bit of distance from this firm notion that something isn't going to be okay. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. It won't work. I can't do that. I could sit and list the negative belief systems that everybody carries around all day long, but I want you to really take a step back from that and give yourself permission to look at that mindset just a little bit differently, because changing your language even a little bit in steps is moving you in a really powerful direction. And it sounds to our ears so stupid and so simple. And it's like, well, then why don't we all just do this? Because you have a habit.
Right.
You have a habit. That's why it's not this simple. So it's the reason I also didn't just ever do cognitive behavioral therapy in a vacuum, because I think we do need to understand the why. This is sometimes lacking the why. Why do I feel this way? So that's deeper work, and you may or may not want to lean into doing some of that deeper work in this next coming year. And that's totally awesome. If that's something you're like, wow, I really do see, I've got this handful of belief systems I function from. They're old patterns, they're old ideas, and really not serving me anymore. I want to unravel that and do some work on that. That really looks like accountability and mentorship. We're going to get there. I think you need that too. But I just want to say, right before that, even, I want to give you all a little tool, a little nugget, like, oh, everybody can work in this realm. Everybody can make this small change today. So it's just about starting to change your thoughts in little increments and really giving distance, because your negative belief systems need to start having distance from creating a new way of looking at it. So do your beliefs matter? 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. So just like Sue said, if you imagine the universe has great, big, gigantic ears, and it's like this big radio tower, and it's waiting to hear from you. It's really just waiting for your cue on what's going to happen. And you're like, I can't do this. It's like, okay, self-fulfilling prophecy. But if I say, I'm going to work on being able to do this, even that language, I'm going to work on being able to do this, that's a fact. And all of a sudden that feels better than I can't do it or it won't work, right? So it sounds so dumb. I get it, to our ears when we're talking through this. It's like, that's so simple. But really, truly, if we all worked on doing this, our lives would look very, very differently. Like, I guarantee you, you start doing practices with your mindset like this, and the way that you feel and show up to the world will be wholly different. I will guarantee you. And so I lots of clients laughed, brushed it off, or like, nah, 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 nah. And eventually they come back and they're like, okay, I got to do that thought work because that shit's going to kick my ass. I'm like, yep, it is. And so it's right. And so what were you going to say, Sue? I don't want to cut off.
No, I was going, no, go ahead and finish because I'll remember.
Okay. So I think this is a piece of mindset. Your language is everything. So when you're creating a word for the year, when you're creating an intention or a sankalpa for the year, when you're trying to look at the things that you want to shift, I do think that coming from a perspective of adding some really beautiful words, some language, some power is really important when you're going to turn this corner. So mindset is how you see the world. It's what your perspective is. And so you might have to go in, you might have to shuffle up how you're seeing the world. You might need a different perspective. And so to me, this is where accountability, mentorship, and some of those things slide in as well. But I do think that mindset is one of your key foundational things that you're going to want to spend some time in so that you show up utilizing this incredible tool, this brain you've got, this spirit you've got. Some of us show up and we're really not utilizing our tools correctly or to their best benefit. And there are these incredible resources that ride around with you all the time. And so again, it's one of those things that we kind of just blow off, but I actually think it is a really important piece of like a new journey. And it doesn't matter if it's the new year or any other time. Taking a look at what thoughts are maybe in my way, what mindset snags do I have, and what can I do to rectify those so that I'm giving myself fuller permission to lean into this next thing in a way that I feel is better or for my highest good than the one that I've always just done because I just know it. So Sue, what were you going to say? I know you had a point that you were going to share.
Yeah, a couple of things. And one, first of all, just tailgating. Curtailing on what you just said.
Yes.
I don't know why I had that on my brain.
Brought anyone?
Right? Seriously.
You're good. Yep.
Talking about how we have the tools. We're walking around with the tools. I have brought this up before and I'm going to bring it up again because it reminds me.
Yeah.
And I just watched it. Dorothy always had the power to go home.
Right.
In the Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
She had it with her in the very gift that she was given when she first landed in her predicament, which is the ruby slippers.
Yep.
And that is such a, if you take away any metaphor from the Wizard of Oz, I feel like that's the one. We have it in us to do what we need to do.
We do. Absolutely. And
we
that's
just do.
Exactly. And I think that's really
inward.
I think looking inward, and I think really like we're going to talk about so many things, and everything we're going to talk about is the stuff you've got with you. It is. The only thing that you might not have in you that I'm going to talk about today is really accountability and mentorship. Do you have it within you to be accountable for yourself? Hell yes. Do I recommend you lean into that? I could talk about that all the live long day, which we probably will. But I'm just going to tell you the rest of everything that we're going to talk about, you've already got it in you. There isn't anything you have to go buy. There isn't a big thing you have to do, right? It's already riding around with you. And so remembering that you're already showing up with all of the things you'll ever need to do this really well is hopefully super empowering. Sometimes I define our disconnect from it like we fall asleep. It's almost like we get so busy in our doingness and our nature that we forget we're carrying it around with us. So sometimes what we need is that's where mentorship, accountability, learning, growth, self-care and self-development come in, is there are reminders that you've already got it. You've already got it nailed down inside you. And so, but we just need to remember that it's there. So well said. And thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate that very much. Super, super true. So your mindset, okay, huge. Anything else to add on mindset too? Anything?
Yes. Looking at the words and the verbiage of how you say things, going back to the difference between saying this won't work, or my favorite, this will never work. And I feel. So the difference to me, to one other added component of the difference is when you say I feel, that's where accountability comes in. Because now it gives you a second not even a whole second, like a split second to stop and think, wait, do I really feel like this?
Mhm.
Or is that my habit? So just looking at the, going back to words matter, and they're really powerful and they're potent,
Mhm.
tying in with your thoughts at the same time, and then plugging into that when you're actually assessing whether something is going to work or not,
Absolutely.
being able to step back and question, wait, do I really believe that? Or am I open to accepting that it might work?
Can I be open to a different possibility? I think that's
And
so exactly well said.
the universe hears what you want. So if you tell it what you don't want, it's still hearing that you want what you don't want. I'm
Yep.
so sick of being broke. Oh,
Right.
you want to be broke? Okay, now you have another bill.
Right. Right.
If you say something like, I I don't even know. I always go to the money thing, but this job is not fulfilling, or this job is so dead end. The
Right.
universe is going to be like, all right, you
Then it
just
is.
got another year working at this. If
Exactly.
you change it to um I seek a rewarding occupation, or
Exactly.
using those stronger, more positive
Yep.
words,
Yep.
even if you just write them down,
Yep.
meditate on them,
I am
that's
seeking a job with greater alignment. And guess
that's
what?
what the
That could
universe
even end
plugs
up,
into.
and that could even be the one you're in. The irony is you might think you
Yes.
need to leave, but the funny thing is you change the language, you start to seek it out and it seeks you out. So what's funny is we can get very finite in the way that we see things and go, oh, well, it has to be that this job just sucks. What if it's just that your thinking sucks? What if it's just that changing the way that you think about things actually invites in an entirely different experience? You show up to work every day differently, and then work responds to you differently, and the universe is
Yep.
holding space for all of that. So to me, there really is, even again, it's like you said with money, oh, here's another year that it's going to be shit for money. I am capable of making better decisions for myself and my finances. How much better does that feel than this is another year that's going to suck financially?
Yep. You're putting the
There,
onus on it, and
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. So it's so interesting to me that what sounds simple is way harder, and it's a pattern, it's a habit. So you need to understand that's why they're hard. It's like stopping smoking. It's just my general like, hey, it's like stopping smoking. We think it's easy, but it isn't, because it's been with us forever. And sometimes there are really valid reasons we developed that thinking to help support us and protect us. So
Mhm.
I even honor that. I will celebrate, listen, you had this defense mechanism for a reason. But it might be time to ditch it. It might not be serving you anymore. And so it's really time to recreate and reinvent how you show up in the form of your thoughts. And your thoughts and the words that they carry are super powerful, super, super potent. So that's where I think when you hear people speak to developing a year-long mantra, developing, for example, a year word, right? Things like that. That's why people are doing that. They're saying, okay, I'm going to give myself a focal point that I would really like to inspire myself to lean into. So, like I said last year, my word was power. And what I meant by that was not power over, power in myself, trusting myself, leaning into my own internal power that I get to carry around with me every day. Am I leaning into using my own power? That's why I chose that word. It ended up that I spent a lot of time in discernment, which is connected to power, right? So I think that when we understand I want to hang my hat on something each year that feels really important to me.
Mhm.
And you're not going to screw it up. There's no screwing this up. If you pick a phrase or you pick right, the only thing I will say to you is picking something that feels really powerful to you. It could be anything. One of my best friends said her word she thinks this year is knowing. That's great. It's brilliant.
Mhm.
So for her, that's what lands. So you pick what feels good to you. It could be commitment. It could be consistent. It could be spirit. It could be kindness. It could be connection. Power. There is no shortage of really beautiful language that you could pull up that you're like, you know what, this is really what I want to lean into. You want to add some depth to it? Start developing an I am statement. Start developing an I am witnessing my capacity for power by using my voice and my talents and gifts every day for the best and highest good of all. I just gave you a brilliant, and that was just made up, whatever. I just gave you a nice I am statement that you could plug in your words to. And what you're looking for is, what's the word, the power word? How do you want that to have a resolution? How do you want that to work? That's all you're doing. You can take your one word and plug it in. And every day for an entire year, you could step into that space. And in the morning, wake up and say, I am stepping into my power using my blah, 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 blah. You heard me. I will not recreate it ever the same way twice. But you get my we can wake up. We can say that to ourselves in the morning. We can say it at night before we go to bed. And you'd be surprised what happens with repetitive, right? We're creating new neural networks. We're actually creating a new pattern. And it's healthier and it's happier and it's a nicer mindset. That is much more potent than the negative one you're carrying around by a long shot. So,
and other things on the peripheral will start to follow
exactly
suit with that.
absolutely
Changes in other, it's a ripple.
It totally is. It's magnetic. I want you to think that when you are, and you know what I'm talking about, if you're out there and you know someone who's really positive, and the minute they kind of come into your sphere, they're fun, they're funny, they're playful, they're kind, and there's just something in their presence. You go, ah, it's like you took a big breath of fresh air and you can let your shoulders relax and release. This is what I want you to imagine your words do for you, right? Is when we are so committed to like, this is so plugged in, it brings in this beautiful vibration for you. And what happens is people magnetically, the universe, people, experiences start showing up to support you. It's the coolest thing ever. And this is about manifesting, which we will not get into today, but this is one of the key pivotal pieces of manifestation is you become a magnet. When you become positive, you become a magnet. When you're negative, you're also a magnet.
Yes.
So we want to be clear, you're a magnet either way. You get to decide, do you want to be the kind that pulls good shit in, or do you want to be the kind that's repelling good stuff out? We obviously, all of us want to be having the experience where we get to pull in really beautiful stuff. You have to be in control of that. That is not something that someone's just going to gift to you. Excuse me, everybody. You're not going to get gifted it. Nobody does. You're going to have to work on it because you have a habit. We all do. We want positive thinking and mindset to be a habit and a new pattern in your life.
Well, and it is kind of a gift.
It is a gift.
It really is. It's
Absolutely.
like the mass universal gift, but we have to work for it.
Yep, exactly. We're given the opportunity, the tool. It's like, if you imagine a bunch of cavemen and women sitting around and someone brought the first hammer and they laid it in the group. It's not helpful if they just sit and look at it. Right? I mean, be honest, right? It sounds dumb, but it's like, imagine there's this group of people and there's this beautiful tool that's just been laid in the center. And is it useful if everybody just looks at it? No.
Right, no.
It's about the picking it up and trying it out and figuring out what the hell it does and utilizing it where the power is. So that's really what I want you to imagine. All these things we're going to talk about, these blocks, are actually tools in the center of your fire. They're up to you to pick them up and use them or not. That's really what it is. It's like you decide, right? So these can be blocks, but they're also, on the other hand, they're your tools. So mindset is really important. So sorry. Anything else that you want to add on mindset?
No.
Oh, okay. So she's like, no. So the other thing I'd say is, the other thing I hear a lot of is, and I think I used to do this, I'm going to be really honest, unclear vision. Floppy vision. Floppy bacon vision.
And you have a great example about this. You have a great, like, for example.
Yeah. So I like that she said it. I'm like, which one was it? I probably have,
or maybe not. No, it was a broad one where someone comes to you and they say, you ask them what's your goal and they'll give you one, but then you have to keep chipping away.
Yes. So for example, I know for me, what I heard a lot of, so thank you for circling back to this. A lot of what I heard in my office as a therapist when I was doing traditional work, say, what are your goals? And this is what people would say: to be happy. Oh dear. And a part of my soul would die on the inside. I would shrink and shrivel and want to die.
Oh, dear.
Why? Because happy sounds awesome, doesn't it? I mean, it sounds right. What the fuck does that mean? Right. And I'm not picking on anybody. All of us have said it. Oh, my hope is to be happier. What happy to you doesn't look anything like happy to your neighbor, by the way. It doesn't look anything like your partner, your kid, your best friend. Your happiness is completely one. It's finite. It's fragile. It comes and it goes. So one of the things about happiness that's really shitty is that if that's your goal and we know it's not sustainable in totality, we're hoping for something that actually isn't real. It's like chasing a unicorn. Okay. And listen, unicorns are real. Okay. But let's just, right. But I'm just saying, right. We don't want to chase a myth. We want to chase something that actually has validity to it. So I do think that there's something powerful about, okay. So then I would say to someone, what does that look like though? Now we're getting somewhere. Well, happiness means peace. Oh, peace is a better goal.
That's different.
Peace looks like I'm more relaxed. I find more joy in things every day. Okay, now we're cooking. So what we really want to do is make sure that the vision that we craft is really fucking clear. Crystal, I want you to feel it in your bones. So when you're crafting this, I don't want you to be like, well, I'd like something nice for this year. What the fuck is nice?
What does that mean?
Right? I mean, to me, nice is getting my eyelashes done. Someone else would rather die than go sit 2 hours and have somebody poke around their eyelashes. Okay. So, right. We just want to think about what does it mean to you and get so clear. Write it out. Talk it out. I don't care however you learn, however you take information in, get a buddy, have a system, get a journal, whatever it is, get a group if you're in a group, talk through what is your vision, be so clear. Your other thing you want to do is immerse yourself in your vision. So here's another tool. So the flip of this then is having a really clear vision. That can look like a vision board. It can look like something you create on Pinterest. You can create them in Canva. I create mine, I laminate mine like a total nerd. Why do I do that? Because I pull that fucker out all year long. So I don't want it to be broken, ripped. Like for me, it's just lovely. I pull out my laminated deal and I look at it all year long. It is full of imagery. Last year, I started adding some potent words that I like because language is so important to me. Okay. So I added lots of imagery about what I wanted to come to fruition. Then I added some power words, if you will, on it. Now, how do I use that? Right. So if you're listening and you've heard vision boards, everybody's seen these. Probably most of us have cut out pictures and glued it on it. You know, if that's your jam, praise be to you. That's great. If that doesn't work, get creative. A vision does not look like one thing. Yours could be a list of words. It does not have to look like one thing. So what I think is important is devising the way it fits best for you, what lands most. And then your kicker is this. Your best exercise, and I'm serious, somebody write this down because it'll make me feel better. One of your best exercises you will ever do for yourself, thank you, Sue, is literally visualize all of the things on that list happening exactly as you'd have them happen. Not only do you see it in your mind, you invite in all of the emotions of that thing happening. If in the past I've had goals of financial gain, I've had goals of public speaking, I've had goals of writing books. What I do is when I go in and I'm imagining that, I imagine how will I feel holding my completed book? How will I feel standing on stage in front of hundreds of people talking about something that brings me complete passion and joy and empowering other people? How will I feel when I see their faces light up and they're learning something new? I have had visions of retreats. What will I be doing when I'm there? Who will be there with me? How will we feel? So I am literally giving the universe all of this information, right? Not just me, my mind and my heart. I am literally broadcasting to the universe in this big radio tower. This is exactly how I'd like it to look. Here's your key: consistent visualization. And this is a meditation thing, and you'll never hear me disagree with this. Meditation is a fucking superpower. If you don't agree with me, check out successful people. Most of them have practices that are either meditative, visualizations. They've got coaches that are doing this for them. It is not an accident. This is such a popular thing that you hear about. It is because it is an absolutely foundational, cool thing that you can use all the time. Now, I'm going to give you a caveat though. So what happens, Sue? I'm going to throw this out there to you. So we've created this beautiful vision. We have our cheesy, because I'm nerdy and I have my laminated board and I've got all my goals on it. And oh shit, the year's almost done, Sue. And I didn't get all my visualizations to happen just the way I thought. Uh-oh, what did I need to do? What do I need to do for myself? Oh, I love her face. Her eyes just got very big, everyone.
I have no idea. Okay, wait. Okay,
Okay, so let's say you've set some goals for yourself.
Yep.
It's the end of 2024 and you go, well, shit. What do I do if my visualization didn't come exactly to fruition, exactly in a year, exactly the way that I thought? What did I need more of?
The old me would say, well, screw it.
Right?
I guess it
Exactly.
just wasn't meant to be. Fuck
That's
my life.
right? Okay, exactly.
Full circle.
Exactly.
Okay, so what do you need to do? I feel like this is going to sound woo-woo, and I'm using your phrase, I'm pretty sure. Raise your vibration.
Yeah. So what I would say is right. So one is take a look at your energy, number one, but two, I'm going to tell you whenever you do this, understand that I do believe these practices manifest the shit you want. I'm telling you 1000%. I've seen it. Okay. So this is not some like just bullshit I'm pulling out of my ass to make it sound like it's great for a podcast. But I'm also going to say one of the things I think we miss, and this is a midlife wisdom. So this is where midlife is going to come in. You want to remain flexible. I can't tell you the number of goals I've set for myself, the visions I've had, and they don't necessarily come to fruition in a year. And if I throw my hands up and go, well, fuck this, none of this worked. I'm cutting off the flow of energy and lifeblood into my vision and dreams. So what can happen is we start with a vision, we create that vibration by consistently calling it up and calling it in. Our guides, if you believe in that, your angels, if you believe in that, God, Jesus, universe, source is listening, leans in. And what I want you to understand is the more flexible you stay, the less you grip onto a certain resolution, the happier you're going to be when something arrives. So this is the kicker, because I think that one of the things we can do, a block can be, I grip that. I have this vision though, Jen. I had this visual. I visualized every damn day you told me to visualize. And then that shit did not exactly come. Either you needed to be flexible and let it come in the way it needed to, or the no was your answer. And that was your gift and blessing. So we need to have a different mindset about how this might unravel. And some of my goals are going to take years. Can I set a new one in the new year? Yes. But some of them might take me 3 to 5 years to get to. Right. So we also just want to be really, really clear about our vision, and then be clear about, be flexible. Try to lean in with some fluidity and some flexibility and some flow, and trust that all of your support systems are going to show up and help you have that experience in the way that is best serving you. And honestly, best serving you to serve your purpose. So we get lost in the kerfuffle. And if it didn't happen just the way that I said, well, then the shit doesn't work. Oh, the shit's working. The shit's working. You might not see the resolution you want with your eyeballs. That does not mean, in fact, it's not working.
Right.
So flexibility, right? So this is where I say, if we can let go of a certain expectation or outcome, if I can say, I've got this vision, I'm going to lean in. I've got my power word, my phrase. I'm going to lean in. I'm going to do my visualization. I've got my vision board, or however I like to use this kind of idea. I've got that all in place, and I'm going to practice and practice. Then I have to let go of exactly how it will show up. Because I'll guarantee you, and this is really fun, Sue did not know of this exact new job she's got at the beginning of last year.
No.
So she was like, I need the next best thing. And she had visualized some job doing, I don't know what. And then this job, she goes, well, look at this shit. This didn't work. Her best thing showed up spontaneously. And if it didn't look just like the thing that she had in her head, she doesn't want to chalk that up to an accident or error in the universe and not take it. She's turning off the spigot. Instead, she allowed that magic to show up, turned that spigot full the fuck on, leaned all the way in, and took that opportunity. And she would not have known to ask for this specific job. Right. I hear people do this all the time: relationships, work, purpose, all sorts of pieces of their lives, right? Finances. And what happens is we have an idea about how it has to look.
Right.
Abundance, goodness, greatness does not look like one thing, friends. And so it's about having a more open idea about what might show up for us and have our eyes looking. That's where we start to really see it. We go, oh shit, miracle, 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 miracle. If
Yeah.
my goggles only say, it's like those horses that wear those
Oh,
blinders,
the blinders.
fence, like if they're doing like sleigh rides, and it's to keep them completely focused,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, that's what we can be like. We want to take that shit off and allow the full spectrum of everything that's great coming into us to be able to see that and experience it and understand that that's a gift, to understand that is a direct correlation to what you've been asking for. Does it look just like what you asked for? Not necessarily,
No.
but does it mean in fact you're not being given a gift and that you're not being given a part of what you needed? No, I think it full on means that's exactly what's going to happen for you. So there is a little bit of a twist in this that I would throw out there, that I want people to remember what we've learned in midlife. My hope for most of us is flexibility. Things
Yeah.
don't all look like one way. They don't all have to work one way to be very successful for us. And so I feel like it's having that greater perception and that greater wisdom and inviting that to the table that we make decision making from, rather than getting rigid. I think
Mm-hmm.
rigidity is not helpful. Okay. So I will say in this process, allow for flexibility. Allow for other things to show up in a way that you might not have visualized, but it is in fact an answer to your prayer, if you want to think
Mm-hmm.
about it that way. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. So that's another one. I would say sometimes I think people lack strategy. So I'm going to say this too. If we just show up and I just have a vision, I just sit with my good words, I create my vision, I do my meditation, and I'm like, cool, now just make that shit happen, universe. Crickets. Why? God helps those who help themselves. The universe
Yeah.
helps those who help themselves.
Yeah.
So if you think you're also just going to magically put this vibe out in the world and every single thing that's great and awesome is going to fall in your lap, that's just not going to happen either. So
Right.
it's a balance. It's finding the balance between, I have this vision. My strategy is, what are the steps, short and long term, I'm going to take to achieve this vision I've got. I don't get to just do one part and sign off on the rest and go, the rest will just happen for me. That's
Right.
fairy tale shit. Sorry, friends. If you want to have something really powerful come to fruition, you're going to have a strategy. So I think this is really important, whether it's your health, whether it's your work, it doesn't matter what it is. You're going to need some strategy, right? So we do want to sit down and actually identify, I think, 3 to 5 steps for each thing you want to do. And I do think that there's some that are short-term and long-term. So I don't want to dive into that. There's SMART goals out there. There's all of that. I think that stuff's great. But what I'm going to say, right, I like hate that.
I was just thinking about that. I was just
I'm over here
like,
vomiting.
SMART. What does it stand for again? But it's funny you said that. Just as
No, SMART goals. And so look it up online, and they're super great. Here's what I think SMART goals lack. And this is why I've culminated coaching the way that I have. One thing sounds great, but it needs another piece. So again, what I'm saying is, listen, SMART goals are awesome. Why are you going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to keep you going? What's your vision? Are you going to look at it every day? I want to know what the strategy is to get to those goals. And I think sometimes it's lacking the backside of vision and things like that. So this is where we don't want to do one without the other. So listen, like if that's a thing for you and you really enjoy, like, oh, I want to sit down and I do SMART goals, every power to you. Add in these other pieces and tell me it doesn't amplify. That's what I want you to see, is the power of combining tools is where the money's at. And so I just want to say that that's one of the reasons I don't just do SMART goals with people, is I want you to have a visceral reaction to what you want. There should be some enthusiasm, some joy, some excitement, some inspiration. And sometimes that can be lacking if we get real technical, and like, I'm here for the technical, but I'm also here for that very spiritual connection to something bigger than ourselves. And so I think it's when you pull that all together that where you get the most benefit for your buck, essentially. So I want to say strategy. Okay. Important. With strategy, I could talk about your plan if we want, but I'm going to leave it, and we're going to leave it and move on, because it's an acronym I like using, but I don't want to spend 9 million hours talking about it, because it's something I would do in coaching. It's not really for here, but the idea of a plan, right? Strategy. Plan to me stands for protect your time, energy, and values. That's what P stands for. So you want to look and say, is what I'm doing protecting my time, energy, and values? Is there a layout for the structure? How? How am I going to do these things? What am I going to do? How am I going to do these things? Does it feel good? Check for alignment. I'm listening to my energy. If I think about this, if I want to do muscle testing, if you're someone who does muscle testing, does this feel like a lean in? Is that a hell yes? Or is that a if there's a pause, there's something that's probably missing. So I want you to check for alignment. And then I want you to notice how it feels. How do you feel? How do you feel in your body? Do you feel excited? Do you feel open? Or do you feel kind of tucked in tight and you're having a hard time breathing? So that's what plan stands for. That can be a really nice connection for the idea of strategy. Okay. Is I want to have a plan, and plan stands for those pieces. Okay. So that's just another layer of stuff we can do. Another block, lack of accountability and mentorship. I'm going to say this loud and clear. And I know, and listen, I get it. I know that money can be a factor for people, and I don't ever want to dismiss. Listen, I've been on both ends of the spectrum where I've fully been able to spend money, or I have found money because it was that valuable to me to dedicate to doing mentorship and or healing work. And there have been times where I felt like I could not afford that. So I'm going to say I've been on both ends, and so I never want to be short-sighted and just say, oh, everyone can just go do this.
Right.
I do think finding groups and communities where you do feel like you will be upheld, supported, loved, and seen, where you can be processing this kind of stuff, is very important. I think it can look like friends. I always tell you to go professional where you can, 100%. Okay. I have bought business mentorship. I have bought healing mentorship. All levels of it. I have been there for it. So not only do I offer it, I have paid for it and I have participated in it. One of my very favorite spots I did this for the first time in my life where I saw the value was Beachbody, which sounds hilarious. I was a Beachbody coach for like 3 years, really heavy, doing it on a really regular basis. And I saw that I was better. I did better working out when I had accountability. This year, when I lean in for my wellness, I am hiring a trainer because I know myself, I know how I am, and I'm more likely to show up if I've got someone on the other end of my phone that's waiting for me to sign in and do a workout. So I have a friend that's a trainer. That's what she does professionally. And I'm like, I'm going to hire you for a while because I need to get off my groove. I have been in a groove and I need to start fresh. And I need somebody to take a look at me and help me walk that. I will not do it on my own. Am I capable? You bet your ass I am.
Of course.
Will I carve that out right now? No, I've gotten out of habit. I need someone to help me create that new groove again. So I'm going to hire somebody I really adore. I know I'll look forward to seeing her in the morning. Even when I don't want to be there, I will be there because she will be there. That's how we start looking at these decisions that we're making. And I think that having accountability is a huge piece that people miss. So having places, and it doesn't mean bitchy, shitty, finger pointing accountability. When I've done networking and when I was making decisions and I'd have a colleague say to me, is that you standing in your power? That's accountability. That's someone holding up a mirror for me to say, am I actually standing in my power? Or am I not? That's really freaking powerful. So I think we need good, healthy people, and I want to be very clear, to help us hold space for ourselves and accountability. That can look like networking, mentorship, therapy, coaching. There's a million spots you can go get it. Groups, if you can't afford individual coaching, lots of times we start in groups. I've done a lot of my work in communities and had to carve out my way to get my answers right individually kind of doled out to me.
Right.
But I have done group coaching because I couldn't afford a coach one-on-one. So there's lots of spaces, there's books, there's podcasts. So what I would say is, even if you can't afford right now doing a full-on set of something with someone, is lean into the spaces that you can. Find good people that are healthy that maybe have a similar goal. You can look for fitness communities. You could look for menopause communities, your midlife, and let's say, oh God, empty nester communities. These are all things that if you go out and can find some spaces, they will hold space for you to do your work. And so to me, I do think that having that connection, that human connection, is pivotal. And I know when I was in my health journey at like 40, there's no way I would have done it without the community I had. No effing way. I was in the best shape of my life at 40. And it was because I had a community. guaranteed. And it was the first time in my life I ever saw that. And I was like, this is always going to be part of my community, my coaching, because I know the importance of people being able to kind of come together. That is really huge, powerful stuff. So you might not be using accountability and mentorship, and I'm going to strongly encourage you to do it. If you're out there and you're listening, you're like, I don't know, trust me, try it, find yourself a good space. Tell me it doesn't change your life. I have lived it over and over and over. I have invested the money in it. So I'm here to, right. I've done all those pieces. So I want to say very clearly, I think that's really important. And I think it's a piece that gets missed. And by this point in midlife, I hope the wisdom tells us I don't do much alone. At the end of the day, do I write my own book? Do I do my own work? You bet. Do I have to live my purpose? You bet. And I don't do it in a vacuum. I do it because I'm blessed enough to have these beautiful teachers and people all around me. And so what we're doing is, yes, I have wisdom in midlife, and I'm also smart enough to know I'm going to borrow somebody else's. I do not have every answer. I do not have every tool. I do not have every skill. There are spaces in me, patterns that I have that will knock me on my ass unless I allow someone else with a set of wisdom, a new set of eyes to come in and help support me in this journey. So to me, that willingness we have hopefully in life to go, shit, I don't have all the answers. Remember when we were 20, we thought we had them all? And I think it's hilarious. The full solution at almost 50, I pretty much don't have any answers. I'm fucking winging it 95% of the time. So if I can do that, if I can have that mindset and be open-minded that somebody else has a set of wisdom, they've got ideas, they've got a different lens than I do, because it's like seeing the forest for the trees for ourselves, friends. We just don't do it. This is why therapy is so important, because we can only do so much for ourselves. It's so powerful to have somebody else sit with us in that. And so I cannot say enough. Accountability, mentorship, anything that you'd want to add to that, Sue, any experiences or thoughts or anything with that?
No, I mean, the first thing that pops into my head is kind of trite, just like positive attitude, just the positive, but that goes with the mindset. And
yeah, no, totally. So I think mentorship, something I would definitely lean into for anybody listening. If you can find a space, I do really recommend. I think the power of change is just totally amplified and elevated when we're with someone else to do it. I just do. I think having somebody walk that journey with us is completely different. And so you've done some of this stuff with me in the past too. I mean, what would you say about your experience of doing something individually on your own or being in community and doing some things?
I honestly, I'm completely, this is just me. I cannot stand like community. Like I do get something from it, and I do hopefully bring something to it as well. But the idea of doing it, and this is where the positivity comes, like it freezes me. The idea of actually having to check in with someone, and I've done it. I've been there before, and I've done this stuff. I've never gotten comfortable with it. Truly. I'm not taking away the power of it.
Sure.
I believe that there is power to it.
Yeah.
But there's just something about that idea, because it feels invasive, because especially like a stranger, like the fact that I even went to therapy the way that I did is shocking to me.
It's great.
Because I don't like sharing. I don't mind being an open book. If you ask me questions, I will speak or whatever, but I don't like coming to the table, spilling my guts and being like, hey, here's me. Hi.
Well,
because freaks.
It's distinctly vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I think the thing that goes hand in hand with accountability and mentorship that I hear you spoke beautifully into it is that's nerve-wracking as hell. Because once I step in, I'm exposed. My thoughts are exposed. My patterns are exposed. I'm exposed to hearing something that makes me deeply uncomfortable. Somebody might make a suggestion. Somebody might come at me, and not come at me in a mean way, but offer something that makes me have to look at it. And so, and I think community can be daunting if you're more introverted too, right? Am I also saying you have to go pick out an accountability group that's 100 people strong? No, you could find 2 people that you decide you just want to connect with. And it's like, hey, we're going to work out together. That's great. But I do want to say, I do think that one of the things we don't often talk about with accountability and mentorship is it's going to be vulnerable. You're actively saying to someone, I would like your opinion, your feedback. When I train, I'm asking someone to give me feedback about my weight, my body shape, the way that I'm going to get there, how I'm going to do it. I'm asking for support that might make me uncomfortable. Right. And so what can happen is our excuses and our self-sabotage can become very apparent. It's like it comes into the light. We start.
Oh yeah, that's where our imposter syndrome
That's
starts
exactly right.
to
So
go
what
ahead.
can happen is it can stir up big stuff for us, and we can have this visceral experience of like, oh, I don't want that shit. I don't want you up in my grill. I don't want you to know my biz. I don't want you to have an opinion. I don't want you to say something I don't want to hear. I get that. I get that because that's human. That's so human. And what I would say is the benefit of leaning in is that lens. It is that also someone can hold space for our vulnerability. They can hold space in a loving way for us to make change. So it isn't critical or unkind or ungenerous. I think that there is this really therapeutic piece of being received in a beautiful way, even in our fallible moments, even in our shitty moments. Sometimes I'll say to my healer, well, this is going to sound shitty. She's like, super. She loves it. Whenever I'm going to say something super like that kind of sounds kind of shitty, she doesn't mean it. But what she means is, I love that you're being raw and real. I don't want you to give me the form of you think I want to hear. I want to hear the actual thing you think. To me, that authenticity, that vulnerability leads to real change. To me, right? But it is scary, or it can feel scary. And so I want to identify, because I think that's a really real thing. And I don't know that that's your experience of community, sweetheart. I don't want to take, but I will say, I think that's a lot of us where we land is there's, oh, now I'm vulnerable and I'm in front of other people. And what if I don't do it? What if I don't do the thing? What if I don't do the workout? What if I didn't read that chapter? I did a group with women and people would show up and they would be like, I didn't read the chapter this week. Okay. This is me.
Yeah.
You get what you brought in. So I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Would I suggest you do it? Yep. This is your journey.
Right.
So, but I think that that's what it is if it prompts us, if it motivates us a little bit to do something that makes us uncomfortable, moves us off our mark. The goal is not to shame someone. The goal of accountability isn't unkindness and beating you over the head with something. It's trying to give you a space to say, oh, you're not accountable to me, you're accountable to you.
Right.
Accountability isn't from the person who's sitting across from you, it's from you. Right. And if you're uncomfortable in your own skin, that you have a hard time showing up, that's something that you could take a minute and take a look at, right?
Yeah.
All of us. So it is hard. It can be daunting. And I think that's really real. And I'm actually really glad that Sue was that honest about it, because community can be tough. It's just one area. Yeah. So I would say beyond community, would you say that it's been helpful to have therapy or other support systems in place? Would your work have looked the same had you tried doing it by yourself?
No.
Same with me. And that's, I think that's where I'm going, is just, would the work have looked the same? Would my work be as profound that I'm doing with my healer if I did it on my own? No. I have grown more in the last year having that in place than I ever would have by myself. What were you going to say, honey? I'm sorry.
What I was going to say is I also believe that everything starts and ends with us, like you.
Absolutely.
It's with you. So what I was going to say is therapy, going to that example.
Yes.
I had been to therapy before, and I had even been to therapy before with the person that I returned to therapy with after I lost my dog. And that last time, for whatever reason, I came to it more genuine than I had all the other times before. I don't know if it's because I was raw, because that was the most devastating.
Yeah.
That thing in my life that I had experienced up to that point, more damaging than I thought.
Right.
So I don't know if that's what it was. Like, I was at that point now, I've just been like stripped down to like the bare bones of who I am. And now I need help being able to start over and learn things differently. I think that if you enter into community, or you enter into accountability and mentorship, it does have to look a certain way from your end first. It can't just be, oh, okay, so I'm in community and now I just have to show up. It's so much more than that, because it's going to be so much more miserable for you if you don't want to be there. I mean, that's just you know, and you can say all you want. I'm not really sure how I feel about the phrase fake it till you make it, because I see it kind of being a negative in a way. Like, I think that it's good to be able to lean on something like that. But I also feel like that isn't necessarily 100% accurate, because if you say
Yeah,
make it, that's
I get what you're saying, and I get what you're meaning by the energy of it. I think it's a
yeah.
tough call, because I think when I think of fake it till you make it, what I think of is you're practicing something that makes you uncomfortable. So I would say it's more about the, yeah, it's like more about the
It's more,
practice
go
of it.
ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, there was a little glitch in the tech, guys. That's what was going on there for Sue and I. But what I think I'm getting at is, I think it's more when I say, when I've said it to clients, and I don't like it and it's right either. I probably need to find another phrase. But what I think you're saying, well, what I'm saying when I'm saying fake it till you make it, if you need to, is try it on for a minute, because just because you're uncomfortable doesn't make it bad. And I think that's one of the philosophies we have as people, is like, what makes me uncomfortable, so it must be bad. Nope. Sometimes being uncomfortable is exactly what you actually need.
Yes.
So I think there's a difference, right? And when it's fake it till you make it, I mean more step in, practice it, try it on. If you try it once, you go, well, that was shit, and give up. Probably want to try again. You might want to try and do something 6-10 times and then go, okay, that really doesn't work for me.
Right.
And so I think that's more the idea of adopting the notion that we might be uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean uncomfortable means bad.
Correct.
But I know
Yes.
what you're saying. I also want to say, in relation to what you're saying, everything isn't for everybody. So is every kind of accountability or mentorship or program for you now? Hell no, right? That's why there's 9 million of out there. I want you to have choice. I think there's choice.
Right.
And I do think that sometimes when we're stepping into something uncomfortable, we're going to have to be really uncomfortable for a minute before we start feeling, right, the level of like, oh, this is really working. To your point, Sue, about therapy and going in, one, it could have been, certainly, was there a piece of it you were very raw and ready? Absolutely. But two, you had evolved.
Yeah,
Each
that's
time
true.
people come in and do work with me, it's very interesting. Even in psychotherapy, people developed and evolved, and they come back and they would do a different, beautiful set of work. Then they go away. Then they come back. Then we would do a different and more elevated form of work again. So it was really beautiful to watch people go through this evolutionary and developmental process. And what happens with time is you do deeper and deeper and deeper work. I've done therapy as well. My healing work I do now is, I literally no holds bar. She knows every single thing. If I've had a bad thought, if I've done a bad thing, if I'm leaning into something, what I will openly leave that vulnerability with her. I trust her so deeply. And I will guarantee you my work as well. Totally different each stage I've done it. So just know too, that it's not like you even do a practice or a sort of help, kind of a form of help. And you're like, oh, good, done that. Therapy, check. You will have to revisit and revisit and revisit.
Yes.
Because you're always changing, and that's so normal and healthy. So cool to have that experience of, oh, yep, I've evolved. I go back, I do another level of work. I go back, I do another level of work. I freaking love that. So beautiful. So when you were saying fake it till you make it, though, I don't want to leave that notion from where you were standing. Was there any piece you wanted to circle back to? I want to make sure you get to finalize your thought.
Yeah, no, for sure. There is, and I'm trying to figure out how to formulate the words without getting caught up in the semantics of the phrase, because
I know
that's certainly the one that I want to drag us down. What I'm hearing, I guess in my definition of that, you're right. I've kind of put a negative connotation on it. However, your way of putting it is being open-minded. I mean, fake it until you make it is, you're right. It's broad. So what you're saying, or so it's practice. Just try it on. See
Yep.
how it feels. What does it feel like? And don't just completely give up on it right away. And if it isn't something that works for you in that particular situation, move over to a different area where you can find somebody who you want to be more accountable to. And I've never found that. That's personally me, but I am also, more so than one would think, if you've ever heard me speak, I am actually a lot more closed off than I appear.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to
So
actually
extroverted, it's
yeah.
right. It can be deceiving to meet you and see how vocal you are, and like know you've done radio and all these beautiful things in theater, and then people assume that it's just like, oh yeah, that's just like I just roll out and leave all my stuff everywhere. But in fact, you might be much more deeply kind of private than people
Yes.
experience, because they just take that at face value and run that that's like how you do everything. I think
Right.
it's lovely that you're bringing up, I can look one way and actually feel very, very differently. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so you feel like you're a more private person.
Definitely more of a private person. And so that can be tricky too when it comes to mentorship, accountability with anything. I mean, I
Mhm.
can't tell you over the years how many times I've heard, get a workout partner. No, quite frankly, that sounds like an unmitigated nightmare in the world. I do not want to rely on another person.
Yeah.
I do not want another person to rely on me. Sometimes I just want to sleep in and not put on a bra. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but that's just
Yeah.
how I am.
Right.
And so for me, that process looks different when it comes to accountability than it might for, and everybody's process looks
Right.
different.
Right.
But I do think going to your point, I think it's great that you pointed out accountability. It doesn't mean that you're accountable to someone else. It's going back to what we were talking about earlier. Everything is inward. You're accountable to yourself. So
That's
if you're coming
exactly
up,
right.
right, if you're coming up with excuses, so you're telling your trainer or your therapist or your
Yeah.
mentor or your healer, whoever, if you're saying, oh, I didn't do the homework because, and my dog ate the homework because,
Yeah.
you are the only one that you're explaining yourself to.
The only person you're disappointing, my friend, is you.
It's you.
Literally. So if someone told me, I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, well,
Yeah.
and listen in. I guess
And
you'll
that
take
has been a
the
lesson
light.
for me. That has been a lesson to me too. Because what did you say? I'm sorry.
No, good. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. That lesson to me came out on its own very organically and very slowly. It was a slow wave of realization as I continued to dig deeper to the habits I have formed over the years that I want to break, more internally than anything else. Is, oh yeah, when it was, oh well, I can't do that exercise, personal trainer who's here at 6 o'clock in the morning for me, that because I broke my thumb, or I excuses. That's where I'm coming back to when we first started talking about this. Blocks for me personally, this is for me,
Yeah.
they look like excuses.
Yeah, but you know
That's what
what?
they look like in my
I think that's also really true. And I think that is directly correlated to accountability. I think it's exactly where
yes,
we are, which is,
yes,
listen,
100%.
bottom line, and I think this is a midlife takeaway. And I just read it somewhere, God, read it, listened, somewhere. I was taking in some podcasts and some personal development stuff just recently, and I was struck by a quote about personal accountability. At the end of the day, I think in midlife, I've definitely turned a corner where for a long time I would point fingers at situations, places, people, and be very angry and hurt and disgruntled by something that happened. And I was quick to create a victim scenario where
Yeah.
I was being injured. I was not as good at taking personal responsibility for my own part in
Mm,
situations. And to me, this is a really juicy time of life to stop blaming other people for our shit and start standing
yes.
in your very own accountability for what you do and bring. And so what happens is those excuses start to become very relevant and visible to us, because guess what? They
Yes.
stop working. Or we use
Yeah.
them so often now they feel like a broken record and it's still not working. So I think it
And they never worked.
no, they never did. I mean, the reality, maybe here and there they did, but the truth is that they don't work in a standing way because it's not coming from you about you. So the minute we want to dole out our power to everyone around us and go, well, if you hadn't done this and I hadn't experienced that and you hadn't, trust me, I have loads of history in my life where I could go back with trauma and point fingers and blame. And there was times where I did. It did not serve me Yes, did I need to be
Mhm.
seen, held, and cared for? Yes. Did I need the time and space to work through that pain? Yes. And I had to learn to start taking responsibility for how I perceived that experience, for what I did with it. That is my job.
Yeah.
That is not someone else's job. And so I do think that at this stage of life, what's starting to happen is we're dismantling, that we're starting to really look and go, huh, shit, that does not work. That which worked when I was 15 or 20 is not working when I'm 40 and 50. And what the
Right.
fuck am I going to do now? Because now I've got this pattern. This is what I've always done. We throw our hands up and
Right.
we don't have any other solutions. I'm with you. I think excuses are part of blocks. And I think that they are literally a part of that accountability. And I think that divine accountability looks like you saying, this is me. This is my life. They're
Mhm.
my thoughts. They're my choices. They're my feelings. What am I doing with them? It isn't about what somebody else is doing to you. It is what are you doing with your experience you're having? And that is a completely different
Mhm.
mindset than being doled out stuff to other people. You know what I mean? Totally different.
Right. Yep.
Love that. Love that.
Yep.
So with that, accountability, mentorship, excuses, I love that tie-in. And then I said lack of energy practices, meaning that people sometimes don't have practices that allow
Yeah.
them to do these things. And so if you want to clear yourself, like we talked about earlier in our time, we were saying about the importance of clearing your energy, of having energy practices that actually hold space for some of these things in a different way. If you're a vessel, you're going to end up taking on and taking in lots of people's energy. And what happens is that can become overwhelming for us. And we need to take clearing kind of practices to make space for new. That's kind of how I think about it. It's like I want to get rid of any stuff that I'm holding on to that's residual. Some of it doesn't belong to me. Some of it does in the form of shitty thoughts and feelings. I'm going to go through every once in a while and I'm going to clear myself really, really well to allow myself a do over. That's really
Mhm.
what energy clearing is, a do over. It's not because you're broken. It's not weird. It's not wrong. It's not some whole big, it kind of sounds very woo and it sounds very kind of out there. But really, all you're saying is, I'm around other people and experiences and places all the time. So when I travel, I'm picking up energy from people. If I'm in an airport, I was just in Vegas. I was around thousands and thousands. And if you don't think I'm not picking up the vibe of the person sitting 3 doors down, I'm picking up the vibe of a person 3 doors down. Do I know what they're thinking? No, but there is a vibe and I'm picking it up. I don't even consciously know I'm picking it up. When I'm in an airport,
Yeah.
I'm picking it up. When I'm with a group of friends and I'm out for New Year's, I'm picking it up. When I'm at a holiday function, I've got 30 or 40 of my family members. Guess what you're doing? Picking up the fucking energy. So every single place you go, work, friends, family, people you live with, you're picking up their energy. If we don't ever go in and clear house, it's like you're walking around full of so much stuff that nothing else can come in. That's the way I
Mhm.
want you to think about it. So clearing practices like smudging, right? So smudging is one. You could use Palo Santo, you could use incense, you could use a spray, you can use a visualization where you clear yourself. I do both a lot. I'll combine a couple of these tools. I clear myself, my space, and my energy on a super regular basis to create a new spot to start from. It's
Mhm.
creating space. I make room so that my energy can fill back in. And I'm also aware of what I'm dealing with that belongs to me and what I might be dealing with that actually belongs to somebody else. Because I don't want to deal with your energy. No offense. That's not mine to deal with. I need to learn the fine art of what belongs to you, what belongs to me. Right. That's a really powerful tool. So energy healing and energy practices are absolutely pivotal game changers when you learn how to utilize them. We will not outline them all today because that would take us a very long time. But I do think a block for people is they're not aware of how energy is influencing and they're not doing any energy clearing practices, nor have they ever gone through any energy healing sessions. Reiki,
Mhm.
emotion code, there's all kinds of ways we can do energy healing. They just haven't been exposed to it. We don't know what we don't know. So I do want to say that energy
Mhm.
healing practices are absolutely going to be helpful to you to unravel the accountability, your mindset, it's going to actually attend to a lot of the things we're talking about in different ways, which is really cool. So do you have energy practice clearing kind of things that you like to do too? Because I love just talking.
I do, but to be honest, I have not done it in a very long time. So I was
Okay.
just thinking I should
Yeah.
do that because I do the same thing. And
Yeah.
and I was actually thinking about and going to what you said about, you're in this room and you're picking up this energy and you're in this room and you're picking up that energy. I think part of why, and this is not an excuse, it's just something I just realized. I think that's partly why I've struggled with community
Okay.
because I've been in community with people I don't know,
Sure.
still
Sure.
don't know.
Yeah.
And I pick up on this energy it's fleeting. Like I don't feel like there's roots because whether I'm in there temporarily or because I feel like everyone else is in there temporarily and there's no real investment,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I have the energy to invest
Mm-hmm.
in people that I don't feel like are going to be there in a month.
Sure. Sure. And
It's
I
like
totally get that. Yeah. And
further.
I think it's personal that I totally hear where you're coming from. And I think if you're in an environment and you don't know people as well and the investment is low, that another way of doing that or approaching it might be, I'm going to take what I can from this moment. I'm going to take this lesson and
Yeah.
this teacher and this. So it isn't that it has to be completely null and void, but I do absolutely hear what you're saying about the different group or community energy and how invested people are. That does rub off. Right. So it does on each of us
Right.
does make it hard to be as motivated because it's like, well, so and so is not doing it and so is not doing it. So I'm going to show up and well, if you've done it and you've got a community leader and you're able to speak more into the heart of the content that's being taught, you are having a different experience. Maybe the other people are there, maybe they add their opinions and ideas and stories, and that's powerful for you, but they can't receive the next set of wisdom because they didn't do the reading, they didn't do the work, but you did. So, right. So everything is,
Right.
again, how you lean into it. But I hear you. And I've been in
Yeah.
groups in the same way that like the environment, like the vibe is like people aren't very invested. It kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie. Investment. But again, that's accountability on each person.
Right.
So that is that
True.
power. Like we need to be self-aware. Like, am I committed? Am I investing this time and energy into this thing? Right. Like, but
Right.
it
And
does change the vibe.
I think because this is my first time realizing it, I think that's a really good thing for me to look back on too, because am I coming in with a temporary attitude as well? Or am I just not around the right people? Which obviously is a huge question.
Mm-hmm.
And also, yes, that accountability on my part to say, okay, I'll just take from this what I can get from this,
Right.
regardless of like, again, turning that scope inward.
For sure.
So it's not me just going, oh, they've had a really crappy morning. Oh, they can, because I can, again, picking up on that stuff. It sucks as an empath
Sure.
because you don't realize you're doing it.
Yeah.
So taking into account that self-awareness of, okay, I might be going into a group where I may see them again the next day, or I may never see them again.
Sure.
Okay, go time.
Right. And I think
not having any expectations.
And I think too, having a clearing process before you go in
Yeah, yeah.
and a process after you go out. And
100%.
right. So it sounds funny. It's like, can I use my energy tools to navigate those experiences so that I'm showing up in a way that's most beneficial for myself? Like I
Right.
do think that there's little tweaks and tools that we can utilize to help elevate an experience like what you're saying. It's so valid. And I do think there's some really neat tools out there that can allow us to more embrace an experience and not have to feel, because being an empath, we'll circle back to this. We'll probably do a show on being an empath, because I do think that this is a really beautiful subject. Actually, being an empath can complicate your experience of being with other people. And if we don't develop deep, powerful tools to navigate that, that can make us want to run and hide. It can make us want to become hermits. It can make us want to stay home and not go out and not do things or be in community and groups because
that way.
yeah. Yeah, right. But it's so true that we can really get overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And so the practice of self-awareness, which we're going to talk about next, is really important. Because if I go, oh, what's triggering me right now? Oh, I don't know these people. Oh, is this temporary? Oh, my energy feels funky. Okay. I want to witness my own energy. I'm going to be accountable to this. And so developing deep self-awareness about, particularly for empaths, I mean, everybody needs self-awareness. We'll talk about this, but I do think with empaths, it's starting to become very, very clear about the areas where you lean in that really are hard for you, right? What are the most challenging areas if I'm in a group? Is it community settings? Is it when I travel? What environments do I find that I feel depleted? And then developing the energetic tools to protect yourself and
Mhm.
your energy so that you don't just have to go and it just goes everywhere.
Right.
And this has been a long time to learn because I was in therapy for 22 years and did not know I was an energy healer. And so I was taking on all people's energy all the time, doing the things and fucking punting and making shit up. And it did not work. And it was until I really realized what was going on proper that I think I was able to better navigate being an empath as a human being and not have it eat me up. Because
Mhm.
as an empath, that is a really tough thing, is feeling kind of eaten alive by all of the energy that we're taking in all the time. And like you said, it's so much of it's subconscious. It's stuff is coming at us and we don't even realize we're taking it in. And then we'll feel like wet
Right.
noodles. And we're like,
Right.
what the hell's wrong with me? Well, you probably haven't cleared yourself. You've been around a million people. You are not necessarily attending to what your needs are as an empath. We want to make sure you've got the skills and
Right.
tools to protect that because it's a gift and it can feel like a curse if we are not
Mhm.
monitoring how to have feelings but not be the feelings. I'm learning
Right.
fine art right now. That's part of my healing practice that I'm learning with my healer is how to not just take on all the feelings and have the feelings. Can I see them, notice them, and can I experience them without having to have them? That is that's deep hard work. I'm just gonna say I'm in it. I'm in the thick of it. So I'm just preaching truth from my perspective is I'm still uncovering how to do this practice as well. But we're gonna
Yeah.
circle back because I love this subject. Um, Anything else about that piece, the energy practice? I just want to toss it in
Mhm.
there because lightly, because again, it's a big long subject and we want to spend 4 hours on it. Um, you might not be in alignment. I'm going to tell you one of your blocks may very fully well be that you're not staying in your actual alignment. And this is where we just know that it doesn't feel right. I'm
Mhm.
doing the thing, work doesn't feel right, my family doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. Something is off. When you're having that experience, that can be a really significant block for us to start creating something new. We do need self awareness. We do need to understand and have clarity about where we are, where we're going, what's working, and what's not working. This is where that accountability mentorship can become really powerful, is that helping grow our awareness. It's not because we're incapable, but sometimes somebody else leaning in with a different lens. Very powerful tools. Why therapy is so cool. I love that part of it
Mhm.
because we need to identify your talents and gifts. We need to understand where your patterns are that are getting in your way. So that's what self awareness is about. So we might be lacking self awareness and practices that help us do self awareness. And then that can knock us out of alignment. So I think those two things are really directly kind of correlated. So what I would say is, looking at yourself, what areas of, and I've done this, I'll sit down and I'll look at the different areas of my life. How satisfied am I in these? How satisfied am I in my relationships? How satisfied am I in my purpose? How satisfied am I with these areas of my work? What parts do I really like? What parts suck ass? What can I minimize? Right? Where can I step up? So I think that my fitness and my wellness, am I taking care of my body? So, what I invite you to do is a practice where you sit down and look at the various areas of your life and say, how satisfying is this? That's what midlife is about.
Mhm.
How satisfied are you? And very often, midlife is a place where, because we're in that sandwich place and we're seeing parents age, maybe pass away, life has become, the mortality is becoming very clear. And now we go,
Yes.
oh shit, my mortality is on the line. I want to get my fucking ducks in a row because this matters. Because now it's
Right.
brass tacks. I'm not 20, I don't have a gazillion years ahead of me. We think we do.
Right.
Now shit's getting real. So now all of a sudden that we feel that internal pressure. Am I happy? Is this working? Why am I
Yeah.
doing what I'm doing anymore? all of a sudden these big questions come up because mortality is facing us. And I think we go, shit, I really want this to matter. If I've only got X amount of time left to live, I want to do it fucking well. And I want to be satisfied. And I want to wake up every day and look myself in the mirror and know I'm living my best fucking life. Doesn't mean I'm not going to have bumps. Doesn't mean it's not going to be hard sometimes, right? I'm not negating that. But I think it's really important to say, how do I feel about this? Am I fulfilled? Am I happy? Am I creating legacy? Am I living in my purpose? I think that midlife, that's a big thing that we're biting out of our sandwich. Is this really serving me? And all of a sudden, all this reflection comes in, that self-awareness. And we start to become fully aware with time and with work. Maybe I'm not in alignment. Maybe I don't feel satisfied with this corporate job, even though it's making me $1 gazillion. Somehow the money just doesn't fucking carry it anymore. Because I hate what I walk into every day. Or right, whatever it is, I hate this place I live. Why am I still here? Whatever it is, all of a sudden we're invited in midlife to take a look at all this stuff and decipher what's working and what isn't. And this shit is money to me. This is why I love working in this frame of reference, because it's sort of like bullshit's over. Like, I feel like we drop some of that and we're like, no, hell no, let's get fucking real about this. Let's talk about this. Let's get vulnerable. Let's do the work I was scared to do when I was young. And now I'm here, I'm facing this. I want to be the best version of myself. I want to leave a big legacy. I want to create this thing. I want to step into the peace that I didn't feel like I ever had in my life. Whatever it is, I just think that this is the grand time that we can step into these things in a totally different way. And so that awareness and that alignment become very important, I think, in midlife. We start to go, oh, is this really working for me? So what do you think about that, Sue?
Yes, the electives are under our belts. Now that I work in a college, I can make this reference. It is time to dig in to the core course of your program.
Yep.
This is that time, because we've already been given everything that we need to prepare us for this. Now we just need to sign up.
Now it's executing. Now it's executing. That's exactly it. And it's, to me, I think the cool thing is in midlife, we know we don't know everything. And I think there is this, we lose the bullshit. We lose like the, I don't want to do that anymore. I am brave enough to say, I don't know a fucking thing. And I'm here to learn, and I'm open. And what can you teach me and show me? How can that add to my life? When I don't feel good, can I change lanes? When I felt like I was starting to burn out in my business, I could have thrown up my hands and said, we'll see how fucked up this is, and given up and been like, I'll just go back into traditional therapy. I could have done that. If you know me, that's laughable, because that's not what I'm going to do. But I'm just saying I could have done that. Instead, I honored where I was. Was it scary sometimes? Yes. And it was still the right fucking choice to make. And I think that's something I had to unlearn a lot of my old patterns to give myself permission to do that shit at this stage of my life. That's what I think is cool about this mid stage of our journey. I really do. I think it's that unpacking the shit that doesn't work. It's like we went on a big ass hiking trip, and we started with a bag with 9 million things in it. Right. And I travel. This is hilarious because I travel with way too much shit. So I'm the perfect person for this entire analogy. And I packed my high heels because I might need them. And I packed my makeup because I might want to put it on. And 10 days in, I'm like, I'm never going to fucking use these high heels. I'm not putting makeup on. Nobody else is. Nobody gives a shit. I'm in the back 40 and I'm dirty and sweaty and disgusting. What the hell does mascara matter? And guess what? I get to the halfway point and I'm like, I'm fucking ditching this shit. Because guess what? It's just useless weight. Right? Yeah. That's what midlife is, friends. You have your big ass backpack. You've gotten here. What's helping? What's not helping? Dish the shit that's just heavy, unburdensome. It's just burdensome weight you don't need, so that you can put that pack on with fresh eyes and a fresh start and a good rest. And you can start this next level with a different lens and a set of eyes and less shit you're carrying that's not helping you. And so that's what I think
Mhm.
the magic of this stage of our lives is we just lose some of that old bullshit we don't need, and we have a fresh lens, and we make space for new to come in. It is a really cool time as an adult, I think, to evolve into. It's really neat. I see the energy and the vibration of midlife people, and it's just really a cool vibe because they will say it like it is more often. They're willing to lean in
Yes.
a little bit more often. There's just a cool piece about us that I think we've really achieved, this level of evolution, of awakening, if you
Yeah.
will. And it's really fun and fresh to me to see somebody that's like, I am so fucking tired of doing what I used to do. I'm ready to do the next thing. And I'm like, right.
Yes.
To me, that's the most fun thing ever, to watch someone uncover, like, yeah, I've been there, I've done this, and this is really not working for anybody. I need something different. Hell yeah, you do.
Mhm.
What are we going to do about that? That to me is the whole basis of coaching. And it's such a fun environment to watch people grow into, because midlife people are ready. Most of my clients come in, they're ready to hit the ground running. They're like, let's do this shit. They're like, I'm
Yep.
tired of doing what I've been doing.
Everybody that I've talked to. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It's so true. It's so much fun. So I freaking love that.
It
So
is.
culminating back, we're going to do a quick run through because we've done there, been there, done that. And then I'm going to ask for any other thoughts you might have, Sue. So blocks, we talked about mindset, not having a super clear vision, maybe not having strategy, maybe not having accountability and mentorship, maybe not using energy practices to kind of help your journey, making excuses, which again, I think is kind of connected to that accountability piece, but I love it. I want to bring it up
Mhm.
because that was a really beautiful conversation. Not being in alignment, and maybe lacking some self-awareness. And by lacking self-awareness, all these things might just be things you're just not aware of, right? This is not
You
a
just didn't,
thing. Go ahead, Sue.
yeah. You're not thinking of it.
That's
Yeah.
what that it's
It's
writing around in the back. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
once you know it, or once you hear it, or once it clicks with you, oh, okay, then
Exactly.
your path shifts just a little bit.
Exactly. Exactly. So it doesn't mean something unkind if it's like, oh, well, I don't have self-awareness. You do. You might not be practicing it in certain areas of your life. And so now what we're doing by having this conversation is inviting you into lean into that space of self-awareness. How are you using your values? How are you using your talents, your gifts, your purpose? How satisfied are you with things? Again, so we're going to circle back to some of those questions. What's been fun about today was we talked about the blocks, and we also identified the things that you can be doing and practicing then to help you break out of the block. So these are not blocks that are actually going to stop you. They're the things that might trip us up and snag us a little bit. But I also wanted you to leave this podcast in particular really empowered to see that, listen, these are all totally solvable things. Yes, they can sound big to our ears, but truly with some time, energy, and practice, I swear to you, these things become so much easier to navigate. And when you
Mhm.
learn that, they're in your toolbox forever. So the cool thing is making an effort to learn these things or engage in mentorship coaching, any of that kind of stuff. All of the self-awareness that you're going to grow and develop and work on healing, those tools will never leave you again. So I
Mhm.
will tell you that all the energy practices I've developed, I use them more and more and more frequently, and they help me more and more often. So all of these tools that I'm practicing, that I'm sharing with you guys, the mindset, all that stuff, it just continues to make steady progress. And in fits and starts, they don't all happen at the same time. They don't happen the same way, and all of us will have a different experience. But I want you to know that I'm speaking from a place of experience of when I've
Right.
practiced these items, right? I have seen them unravel in a way that has made my life so much richer. So this is I'm preaching to the choir. I do this work. I've practiced this work. I've seen the success of it. I'm still doing it, but it's definitely something that I think is so cool because once you learn it, it's with you forever. You're not going to lose the
Yeah.
skill. You're only going to continue to hone it
Right.
like an art form. And so that's really cool to me. So if you're willing to lean into some of these things, even though they can feel a little daunting, perhaps like sounds like a big mountain, doing them bite-sized pieces will break it down. And I swear to you, your experience will be wholly different, and you will gain a skill you'll never ever lose again, and you'll always have it in your
Mhm.
toolbox, and you'll just continue to perfect it. That's cool. And that to me is such a successful piece of adulting and aging, is like, oh damn, I'm learning something. I think that's for me, for when I look back at 2023, I learned some stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I learned some shit, yo. So I think that's what we want
Yeah.
to say is, right at the end of every year, every cycle of our lives, even our birthdays, have I learned? Hell yes. Have I grown? Hell
Mhm.
yes. Am I making an effort? Hell yes. I want those to be hell yeses for all of us. And so to me, leaning into a new year, these are the tools and skills and blocks and things like that that I want you all to feel like, okay, I've got my head around what is this? How can I attend to it? What do I do with it? We don't want to just like, oh, here's all this bad shit. Good luck. No, Sue and I are very passionate about like,
Right.
bring you the tools. Let's talk about our experiences. Let's talk about the struggles, and then let's talk about the ways we can actually achieve making something different. That's really important. We want you to feel really empowered. So I hope that that's what you heard from today was deep empowerment about where you can go and the ways that we can do it, and some things to think about as you're moving into this next year. What could I be doing? What can I be aware of that might really help elevate my experience and help me find my own path to purpose, legacy, whatever it is that I feel like I'm meant here to do? What's going to bring me satisfaction and fulfillment? At the end of the day, that's what I want for all of us. And so we will be talking about purpose down the road. That's coming. We're going to make a series on that, but I just want to drop even that in here. Purpose is a very important piece of your year-long kind of thought and process. It's a lifelong thing. So we'll talk more about that with time. So any other thoughts, Sue, anything that we missed, anything that you want to circle back to before we close for today?
No,
No. Okay. Well,
no, because I interrupt you on the regular. So if
oh,
there's
I love
anything I
that.
need to
I love
circle
that.
back on,
No,
I've already
no,
said it.
I
Because I've
freaking love that.
hijacked the thoughts.
That's good. That's so super. I love it because I don't want you to forget. I'd actually rather you interrupt and come on in and have that
Right.
conversation than forget something important. So we hope that that was useful, that we're kind of giving you a toolbox of things that might allow you a different way and a different approach, and why those things are important and helpful. And we hope that this next year is full of joy and success and connection and love and peace. Whatever it is you value most, I hope that's what you see the most of in this next coming year. But thanks so much for spending time with us, and we'll circle back with other ideas about moving forward in the new year, but also purpose and other topics that we have chosen for this year, which we're super excited to share with you all. So thank you so much for being here, and we will plan on seeing you next time. Everybody, take care.